Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm your host, Dr. David Hooper, and of course, this is the Unstoppable Introvert Project. How has your week been going? I hope you have had an amazing one, and I've been busy. I have been busy. In fact, not just me and my wife have been pretty busy. And I'm so excited to tell you all about what we've been up to. And before we do that, how has your week been? What have you been up to? We are skyrocketing towards April, and it's crazy how fast 2024 is going. And if my maths is right, I think this podcast episode is going to be the 20th, which again is absolutely insane. It's kind of become part of my life, or the main focus of my life. And I can't really imagine what life would be without it, to be honest. As cringy and as uncomfortable as that sounds, it's become an awesome thing I'm doing every week. So, firstly, I'm so grateful for everybody who's tuning in and supporting the podcast. I'm so grateful for the guests who've given up their time to come on the podcast. And I'm so grateful for what is yet to come on the podcast as well. So it's an incredibly exciting time, but I just wanted to check in and see how your goals are going. And I've got a few bits to talk about today in relation to goals and actually accomplishing those goals. But it's a special episode today because yesterday my wife and I completed a marathon, and we've been training for this for a while. And it was Laura's first marathon, and she absolutely crushed it. And it was an amazing day, and I am so proud of her. And today is going to be about how to conquer the most unconquerable challenges. That is not easy to say, but that's what today's all about. Because Laura looked at this marathon as pretty unconquerable, and she did it and she smashed it. And Laura's actually going to be a guest on the show in a couple of weeks' time. Basically, we are going away to Wales, which, if you're not from the UK, it's a little part of Britain. And we're going to go there and have a week off. And we're going to be doing her podcast while we're down there, maybe over a glass of wine. And we're going to talk about her marathon, her background, where she's got to in terms of her career, all of the challenges she's overcame personally as well. And that is going to be an amazing episode. It's going to be really impactful for so many people, especially the women who are listening to this. Now, Laura's very quiet and she's very introverted, but she's incredibly inspiring as well when you actually hear his story. So yeah, I am so excited for you guys to hear everything that she's been doing. And yeah, that is to come in a few weeks' time. But for now, I'm going to pause that, and we are going to think about what Laura and I did over the weekend, which was crush this marathon. And we're going to be talking about how you could go and crush a marathon if you want to, or start that business if you want to, or whatever your unconquerable challenge is. That is what today is all about. So sit back, relax, grab that pen and paper, or if you're on the treadmill, whack it up. If you are in the gym, load up the weights. If you're driving, keep an eye on the speed counter. I don't want you speeding, because today is going to change some lives, that's for sure. Because something for me that I found was that running or training for a big goal is incredibly anchoring. So you might have heard that before, but I use exercise in my day to anchor how productive I am. So very, very often, if I train in the mornings, I will then have an incredibly productive day. Or if I don't train, my day is a bit frustrating. It's a bit slower. It's a bit harder to reach the high levels of performance, which is, of course, what we're always aiming for. So that's where exercise comes in. And one of my main forms of exercise is that I run. I fell in love with running a few years ago. And I think as introverts, it can suit us. So it gives us time to be by ourselves. I'm not sure if I could have said time anymore in that sentence, but it does. It gives us that time to be by ourselves, to reflect, to think, to actually get our heads in order so that we can have a really good day. And one of the best examples I can give is that a couple of months ago, so in October 2023, my brother-in-law and his partner got married. And as you can imagine, being family, Laura was in the wedding and I was around the wedding, obviously, quite a lot. And it often gets too much. However, I know that I can take myself off for a run and recharge the batteries that way and then be the best version of myself again. So we all went up the night before the wedding and there was kind of like a mini party, which, lots of socializing and chatting and energy sapping activities from an introvert's perspective. And I was pretty fraught and overwhelmed, I guess. And, there was a bit of drinking involved and all that sort of stuff. So I woke up the next day on the wedding day, not feeling my best. So what I did, because there was a bit of time in the morning, the wedding wasn't until after lunch, I took myself off for a 12-mile run. And I went and I ran and felt amazing, ran the hangover off, ran the nerves off, ran the overwhelm off. And what that meant was, once I'd been showered and got my suit on, I was able to then feel confident, to feel calm, collected, and ready to enjoy the wedding. And I did. It was a great day, lovely day. And Laura and I had a great time. We were best friends the whole time. There wasn't any nervousness or anxiousness there in terms of lots of people and being out socializing, which sometimes does happen. So that was a real success. And I've always used exercise to deal with the nerves and the pressure. Whenever I've had a job interview, I've gone and ran at least 5 miles before the interview. Similarly, when I am giving a talk or a speech on stage, which is, again, quite a high pressure environment, takes a lot of energy out of me, makes me feel pretty nervous and anxious, I will be training before I go and do that. Obviously, it depends the timings. It can't always be a 12-mile run. It can't always be a super long workout. Sometimes it has to be short and sharp, but getting a sweat on helps me deal with those unconquerable challenges that I build up in my head. So if you don't exercise because you just don't love it, just start to think about how you might use exercise in a more practical and pragmatic sense. Now, here's the dirty little secret about me. I don't love exercise. And I know that sounds shocking because people sometimes hear about my background. I've been an elite footballer as a junior. I'm certainly not an elite footballer now, but they hear me as, I used to be an elite athlete as a junior. I've always done some sort of training. Yes, I was morbidly obese for a time, but I've always hit the gym. I've always trained. I've always run. But unfortunately, that's never because I've loved it. It's always been a battle. However, I am pragmatic in my thinking, and I am a pragmatist. My whole PhD was on being a pragmatist. I don't want to bore you with that today, but it basically means I know that if I exercise, I'm going to feel a certain way. Now, being a pragmatist is reflecting on your previous experiences and realizing that's going to dictate your future actions and how you will then experience things in the future. So I know that if I'm nervous, if I go for a run, I won't be nervous anymore. I'll probably just feel excited and confident because I've done that previously. So yeah, that's the dirty little secret behind me. It's that I train because I must, because I need to be a high performing person. Now I've known people who adore training. One of my best mates, Rob Sanders, we had a business together, is the fittest guy I've ever met. He's an animal. He's a beast. He is incredibly good looking, slightly taller than me, more muscular than I am. He's like me, but a version 2.0. And he's a beast. And he adores training. He's doing CrossFit, he's doing high rocks, he did calisthenics, he's, firefighter, what an animal. And he loves it. I've just never had that connection. I love running when I'm doing it. However, getting out there is always a battle. But I turned exercise into something I do, just something we have to do and get it on. And that is where the difference can sometimes lie, because knowing that exercise is a real helpful tool in your tool belt is completely transformational. And like I say, I use it a lot. But I don't want to get too much into that, because I think I'm going to get Rob to come on and be the beast that he is and talk to you all about that in a few episodes' time. So today we're going back into the marathon, and I want you to think about your marathon right now. What is it? Is it that starting a business? Is it trying to get in a relationship? Is it just sorting your shit out? Whatever it is, try and think about that while we go through this today. Now, I'm going to be talking about a marathon, and a marathon is a challenge for everybody. And, I'm not going to be talking too much about Laura's journey today, because she's going to have an episode all for herself in a few weeks' time. But I'm going to talk to you about how we prepared for it and then how we executed on the day. So let's dive right in. Firstly, marathon training isn't just about endurance. It's very much a mental game, as with most things. That's why this podcast is called the Unstoppable Introvert Project, because becoming unstoppable is a mindset hack. It's not particularly a physical hack, because you need your mindset to be strong first as a foundation before you can then go and build your body in the gym, for example. So the main things that you will come across when it is a marathon, maybe it's an ultra marathon, is your self-doubt and your fear of failure. The worry of, what if I can't do this? What if I get 10 miles in and my leg seize up? What if I realize the stories that I've been telling myself are true, that I can't do this, that I shouldn't have applied for this, that it was ridiculous, that trying to become something I'm not, these are all the things you've told yourself, and you're telling yourself, what if they come true? Well, there will be a voice in your head, a relentless voice. And this will be of fatigue, telling you to quit, not just during the marathon, but training for the marathon as well. There really is a myriad of obstacles to overcome, from getting your nutrition right, to making sure you don't get injured, to making sure you're lovely and stretched and your body's in peak condition from a recovery point of view, making sure you're hydrated, making sure you're getting your miles in and building up the strength in your legs, doing some speed work or some tempo work, maybe some HIIT training. All of these things need to be perfect. And it's crucial to cultivate a resilient mindset and learn to quieten down those mental voices in your head, because they will kill you. If the voice in your head takes over on the day when you're 18 miles in and you start to say, you know what, 18 miles is enough today. 18 miles is enough. I was hoping to do 26, but 18 miles is quite a lot. 18 miles it's pretty good for me. Whereas actually you've set out to do 26, which is the length of the marathon. And you need to be able to tap in to the demon that lives within you, who says, you know what, 18 is pretty good, but that's not what we're here to do. We're here to do a marathon. So let's just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And to be honest, when I talk about things like ultramarathons and marathons and going out regularly and doing 12-mile, 15-mile, 20-mile runs, it's not that inspiring, because I'm able to lock into one thing, and that is I've got a distance in mind, and that's all we're going to do. And the way we do it is by putting one foot in front of the other repeatedly. Small steps lead to big goals. And that is exactly the same with how I approach long distance running. Now, I am not a professional athlete. I run quite a lot and pretty good at it. Can run pretty far, but I can't run pretty fast. And it's all about that mindset. Now, something that I would say to do, and that Laura certainly did on the marathon day, and that I've done numerous times, is use visualization. So again, I'll take you back to your own goals, whatever that is, business, relationship. It might be a fitness goal. Maybe you're trying to lose some body weight. Maybe you're trying to get into your best ever shape. And the way we do that is by visualizing. And what that meant for me was visualizing crossing the line with Laura, smiling, cuddling, cheering, getting our medal. And that is all that I have replayed in my head for the past 11 weeks. Now, Laura trained from 0 to 11 weeks. I'm not going to go into that today because, like I say, it's going to be her episode in a few weeks' time. But from my perspective, I prefer to train in the mornings, like I mentioned. Laura preferred for this training cycle to train in the evenings. And to be honest, she was studying for an exam as well. So fitting training in around her exam, our full-time jobs, this podcast, all that other stuff. The dog who's asleep behind me, if you can't quite see her on the podcast, there's a cat behind the windows as well there who might join us at any moment. It was hard to fit our training in. So we were going to do it on an evening. Now, I find it very difficult to drag myself out of the house after a long day of getting after it. I always have. Not sure why. I think it is that or lack of love for training. I like to get up, I like to hit it hard early, and I like it to be done. And training at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, when we live in the northeast, by the way, northeast of England. So we live just north of Newcastle upon Tyne. We're kind of between Newcastle and Scotland. We're in that gap in the middle, and a place called Northumberland. And it is freezing. Like, it is so cold. Ice on the cars, ice on the ground, frost. We're going out in layers and layers, hats, gloves, scarves, snoods, trousers, coats, jackets, all the layers. And I don't really like training like that. I like to be in a tank top really, or like a vest, shorts, off I go. But it was so cool. So visualizing every night when Laura was on her way home from work, because I work at home quite a lot, she'd give me a call and we'd say, "Are we training tonight?" Yes. And then I would start to visualize all of the amazing successes that were about to come for Laura. But I knew I had to be strong for her as well. So I couldn't say on the phone, "You know what, I don't really fancy it tonight." And here's the truth. I didn't fancy it. I did not want to go out. But I knew how important these training runs were for her. And I knew I needed to be strong for her. And that was my motivation. So every time we were getting prepared to go and do a training run, I would visualize us crossing that finish line, and I would get the tingles down my back. I'd get excited, I'd get pumped, and I would be ready to go and train when she got home. And I was then able to kind of motivate her to go and train, which worked really well. And we were able to fairly regularly, certainly for the first 8 weeks, train 2 to 3 times a week, which was normally 2 training runs during the week and 1 long run on a weekend. And around that, we did some injury management and recovery management, as my good friend Kieran Leggett would say. And we would build that in around. And that, again, would take us energy in terms of doing that every single night. So every single night we did an hour of recovery, which consisted of stretching, foam rolling, massage gunning. I got one of those for Christmas. And Laura would sometimes have a hot bath and then do all that. The other thing that we did a lot of was icing. So there's so many things that you have to do to prepare for a marathon or any big goal. And it all starts with that visualization. Do I want to go and do this training run? No. Right. Visualize finishing, get myself psyched, and then I would do it. The same for stretching, same for ice baths, the same for strappings. Everything would come down to that visualization of, I need to be there for Laura to make sure that she completes this big goal that she set herself. And this really helped me stay focused, motivated, and especially during those tough training runs, and they were tough. In terms of our training runs, we would do somewhere between 4 and 8 miles during the week on the different runs, not in total. And then on the weekend, we would do anywhere from 10 miles to 18 was the max we got up to. And then injuries started to kick in, and it kind of became about getting to the start line so we could then go and crush this thing. And that was where we kind of got to. That was our marathon journey. But there's the second thing was breaking your unconquerable goal into manageable chunks. So one of the big things that you do when you're in a marathon or building up to a marathon is focus on different phases. So usually maybe you have a 4 or 5 month block working towards a marathon. There's 5 different phases, phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? We only had 11 weeks to go from 0 to marathon. Now, admittedly, this was by choice and by design. Laura wanted to smash a big goal by the first quarter of the year. And we found this marathon. We saw it was pretty flat, pretty manageable. And we thought, fuck it, let's go and get it. So 11 weeks to go from 0 to marathon. Now, remember, I am trained in this. I've got a background in strength and conditioning and personal training. I've done periodization a lot when it comes to preparing athletes for sport, which is basically just preparing different phases for those who aren't sure what periodization means. So I know what to look out for in terms of fatigue and injury management and nutrition and how to prepare, all that sort of stuff. So Laura had those resources at her beck and call. But when it comes to the steps, breaking your unconquerable goal into tiny steps is how you will be successful. So at no point did we say, this is one big 11-week training plan. No, it was all about initially building up some fitness in those first 4 weeks. And that was kind of getting up to 8 to 10 miles, something like that. The next phase, which was weeks kind of 5 to 9-ish, was all about trying to get some distance in Laura's legs and build that muscle really so she could do the distances required. It wasn't really about speed for us. That will come in Laura's next marathon if she decides to do one. It was more about knowing we could do the distances. Because when you suddenly start doing long distances, your hip flexors, which are located near your groin, that kind of top of the leg area, they really start to hurt. And when they're fatigued, it's almost like you can't lift your leg up. That happened to me during my ultra marathon a year or 2 ago, and I could barely bend my left leg, and it caused all sorts of issues. So what we tried to do was build up Laura's ability to do these big distances, and we got up to 18 miles quite quickly. And then the final stage, where Laura was starting to pick up some niggles, some tight calves, some shin splints, a bit of quad work, tight quads. It was all about managing her body for the last 2 or 3 weeks to make sure that we got to the start line, because that was important too. So we started to do things like physio visits, sports massages. We increased the stretching, increased the foam rolling, increased the massage gunning. We were icing every night. So we were able to change our focus on every one of these little phases. And when it came to the marathon as well, that's what we did too. So we approached the marathon by doing 25 minutes running, 5 minutes walking. And that did us really well for the first half marathon. Laura killed her time, and she was about 20 to 25 minutes faster than what we were expecting. And then the second marathon, which when it gets hard, it does get hard. That second half marathon, it's tough. It's a grind. You hit the wall. You start to get those mindset thoughts in your ear. Do you really want to do this? It's pretty painful. And we were able to then break it down a little bit differently. And something I've always used in my runs, especially when I've been running with someone who's been finding it a challenge, is pick a spot and run to it then walk to a different spot and repeat. So it's literally picking a spot 200 meters away, run to it, walk for 50 meters and repeat. And that's how we approached certainly the last 9 miles, I would say. We tried different techniques just to keep ourselves going. Things like run for 5 minutes, walk for 2. A guy called Jesse Itzler likes doing 7 minutes of running, 3 minutes of walking. So there isn't a right or wrong way to do a marathon, by the way. So, I've heard people criticizing people if you've walked or if you haven't run the whole way. That is total bullshit. It's not true. It doesn't really matter how you do it. It doesn't really matter how long it takes. It's more about getting the marathon done. And I would say the same when it comes to building your businesses. So if you are interested in building a business, it doesn't really matter how you do it, as long as you start to get that success in the end, i.e. someone buying your services, buying your products, whatever it is. So crunching your unconquerable goal into tiny little steps is the way to go when it comes to whatever your big goal is. And it's a really, really powerful approach, because not only is it less daunting, it suddenly seems manageable. It's like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that extra mile. I can do whatever it is. So try and build that in. Now, if you're someone like me who is an introvert, well, you're probably an introvert if you listen to this podcast, but let's say you start a business, you want sales, but you're terrified of making 100 phone calls in a day. Just focus on doing 5 phone calls in the first hour. That's it. And when you've done those 5 phone calls, you can have a break, maybe do some exercise. Then the second hour, do another 5. And repeat until you hit your target. Maybe 100's too many for that. That's quite a lot of hours. That's like 20 hours of phone calls, I think. I got my maths right. Maybe 10 phone calls per hour. For 10 hours, there's 100 phone calls. That might be something that you can do. But, it's a powerful approach. Setting smaller goals can certainly help that journey become achievable. But, it isn't always plain sailing either. So the other thing I would say is when you are chasing an unconquerable goal, is setbacks are inevitable when you are, certainly if I'll keep going with my marathon, because that's what we've been talking about today, you need to be able to deal with those bad moments and even being uncomfortable. One thing about running is that you're always injured. That's one thing I found. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but my knees are sore, or my ankles, or I've got blisters, or my groins are a bit tight, or my shins are tweaking a little bit. I'm never fully comfortable, or quite often my shoulders and my biceps. I don't know if it's my run technique maybe, but I'm always sore in some way. And knowing that you can keep going when you're uncomfortable is an incredibly strong start to becoming unstoppable, because it's a mindset hack. David Goggins says that you are 40% of your limit when you think you're done. So when you've been running a marathon and you think, I'm finished, it's over, just know that you've actually got 60% still left to go, which, is a pretty cool thought. And I think it's very, very true. Laura thought that she had hit her wall on Saturday when we did her marathon, and she didn't. She was able to keep going. I'll let her tell you all about that in a few weeks' time. But there is evidence to show that this is true. It's like when you have a big work project or a business. Let's say you're starting a business and you want to get your launch absolutely perfect. You end up staying up maybe 2 or 3 nights in a row, no sleep, limited food, because you're so focused on the goal at hand. Is that sustainable in the long run? Of course not. Is it something I would say you should do? Of course not. But it's good to know that you can function at a high level 60% longer than what you actually think that you can. So keep that in mind as you go. When you're tired, you've still got a lot left to give. And being able to adapt and persevere is so essential when it comes to being an unstoppable introvert. So I think my message to anybody about to launch into a huge project, a marathon, maybe you're trying to lose a lot of weight, maybe you're starting a business, whatever it is is that these things are daunting. I'm about to start the process of launching a business in about a month's time, which I'm so excited for, but I'm terrified. And I have no problem saying that to you. Why? I have done business launches before, and it takes a hell of a lot of work. And there's always the worry, what if no one wants to be part of my business? What if people think my idea is rubbish? There is so many thoughts around that. But it's all about focusing on those little goals and doing it anyway. And then being able to keep on going and trusting the process and knowing that you got this is, like I say, so powerful. You've got to believe in yourself and embrace the discomfort. Something that was a bit backwards, but I was saying this to Laura on the last 2 miles of our marathon when she was struggling and in pain and really fighting against it, was enjoy this. You've earned this pain. You've earned having this amazing moment of being in pain, but carrying on anyway. And I love that. It was something that David Goggins said, that after one of his ultra marathons, he had so many things wrong with him, sore legs, sore knees. I think he'd gone to the toilet on himself, and someone said to him, I think it was his partner, you need to go to the hospital. And he said, yeah, I will. But for now, I'm just going to sit in this pain. I'm going to enjoy this pain because you've earned it. It's like a badge of honor. It's the reward you get for doing things that other people aren't willing to do, which again, like I say, it's a bit backwards, but it's that nice pain. It's that feeling of, I'm in pain because I've just smashed a huge goal and no one can take that away from me. So for those in those moments of struggle, just know that that is you truly growing. Laura doing that marathon has blown her limitations apart. She's the first person in her family to do a marathon, and I know everybody in the family is so proud of her. And she's now got these new comfort zone almost. Like she has to go and find out what's next for her. So embrace the discomfort. Know that you only grow in the trying times, and also know that you are stronger than you think. When you are at your maximum, know that you've still got 60% left to give, which is such a cool thought. And if you're able to be determined, have a resilient mindset and a positive mindset, you can conquer anything that can come your way. And I think today that is the main message for you. What is your unconquerable goal that it's your business to conquer in 2024? Is it a business? Is it a marathon? Is it an ultra marathon? Is it finally finding that person you will spend the rest of your life with? Whatever it is for you, know that if you break it down into different steps, small chunks, and go after it and visualize the process and realize you can still keep going even when you're in your darkest days, you can get that goal in 2024. I really hope this has helped today. I really hope that you found value in this podcast. We have got some huge things coming for the Unstoppable Introvert Project. We have got a list of guests as long as your arm. We've got people from Denmark. We've got people from the United States. We've got people from Australia. We've got people from the UK. It is going wild at the Unstoppable Introvert Project headquarters. And I'm so excited to bring you all along for the ride. And I'm so thankful for everybody who is giving up their time to speak to you all. It is amazing the community we're starting to build. And I'm so excited to see what the future holds for the podcast. And as long as you guys keep enjoying it, I will keep doing it. So remember to find us on YouTube at Dr. David Hooper, and find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Dr. David Hooper. And of course, find us on Spotify, the Unstoppable Introvert Project podcast. Give us a subscribe, give us a rate as well, if you don't mind. It really helps the channel to grow, and it really helps us reach all of those incredible, unstoppable introverts who are just waiting to go and achieve their full potential. And I'm so excited to help you do it. So As always, guys, remember, being an introvert isn't the thing that will hold you back. It is the thing that will catapult you towards being your unstoppable, incredible self. Until next time, stay unstoppable.